Hello and happy Friday. I hope we have all had a chance to work hard this week and give ourselves the necessary rest that we need. I hope that now that we've reached Friday, a lot of you are in the avenue of self-care. I hope you are. I mean, me currently, I am struggling with another cold that my little germ dish niece has yet again blessed me with. So Mucinex tea and water are my friend, and self-care couldn't be more important for me this week. Today, we're going to jump right into it. I wanted to talk about the different attachment styles that exist out there, and also bring some important facts about each attachment style. Our attachment styles heavily correspond to how we attach to people as children. This could be our caregivers, this could be just general family, right? They've more or less been able to they have been able to break up these different attachment styles into 4 different child/adult attachment styles. So secure, avoidant, anxious, disorganized. The theory of attachment was actually originally developed by John Bowlby. He was a British psychoanalyst who wanted to understand the intense distress experienced by infants who had been separated from their parents. It's important to realize that the different attachment styles have ranging differences from each other, and how each style may perceive and process closeness, emotional intimacy, communication of their emotions and needs, and as such for others in their lives. The levels of response to conflict, so this can range, expectation about their partners and relationships, etc. So, in the different attachment styles I'm about to go over, it's important to realize that some of you might find a little bit of yourself in each one. This is not abnormal. Like, oh, I realize that I'm a little bit dismissive. Oh, I realize that I'm a little bit preoccupied. So this is just for informational purposes only. I want all of you to avoid self-diagnosis. Just realize that, okay, this is some great information, and realize where the patterns are in your life. Again, this is in no way meant to be a self-diagnosis because none of us are professionals here. I am not a professional psychologist. You are not you might be, but if you're not, you're not. So take all of what I'm about to tell you with a grain of salt, and we'll get into it, all right? The first attachment style being autonomous. The autonomous attachment style tends to thrive in, comfort, warm, loving, emotionally close relationships. This style is able to accept a partner's needs for individuality without the negative feelings of rejection. They're able to maintain a sense of independence while still remaining close to a partner, and they tend to be trusting, empathic, and tolerant of other people's differences, including those that they're in a relationship with, or the relationships that they have with people around them. This one obviously sounds like more of a healthy attachment style. And I can't personally say I've met anybody with an autonomous attachment style. I feel like most of the people that I've met might have a combination of the other more unhealthy attachment styles, but we'll get into that. The next one being dismissive, the dismissive attachment style. These people tend to be emotionally distant, and they reject intimate relationships, more or less. They like to keep current or potential partners kind of at arm's length, and they tend to equate intimacy with a loss of independence, and they prefer autonomy over togetherness. So the potential of intimacy, so the little forehead kisses and the little hand holding and the little eye contact, right? They equate that with a loss of independence. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of children and how they freak out when you take away like a favorite toy or something. And they usually, children, when they see like a toy, they attach themselves to the toy. So when you take that away from them, it's like taking away their own personality. And this is kind of similar, right? So it's like if you are trying to create intimacy with somebody that has a dismissive or an avoidant attachment style, they're going to equate that with, thievery of their independence. It's, and I have been in a relationship with dismissive, avoidant attachment style people, and they usually don't respond very well to, potential intimacy. They're just like, I will run now. Goodbye. And then they leave. They'll also typically never depend on a partner or allow any partners to depend on them. The independence, again, being the overall priority here for them. It's like food, water, independence. The next attachment style would be the preoccupied or the anxious attachment style. These ones are regarded to be insecure in intimate relationships, and they consistently fear rejection, abandonment. This attachment style teeters more on the needy side, consistently requiring reassurance, with the desire to merge with a partner, which typically scares potential partners away. This attachment style often is preoccupied with unresolved past issues from the quote-unquote family of origin, which tends to intrude into present perceptions and relationships, such as, but not limited to, fear, hurt, anger, and rejection. So, and this is, I know some female friends that have met men with this type of attachment style, but it feels more common in women. I've seen this a lot in female friends. I've seen it a little bit in myself. And, it feels pretty common. I mean, I don't know the statistic on, who has more between men and women. I would love to get that statistic, but right now I don't have it on the top of my head. All right. Next and last, the unresolved attachment style. This one also known as the disorganized attachment style. These folks are typically frightened by memories of prior trauma or loss from the past that haven't been mourned or resolved. This attachment style usually can't tolerate emotional closeness in a relationship and tend to have argumentative rages or an inability to regulate their emotions. Abusive or dysfunctional relationships kind of recreate past patterns. They tend to have really intrusive or frightening traumatic memory triggers, and will tend to dissociate to avoid pain. This attachment style will often struggle with severe depression or PTSD, and they'll likely be more on the antisocial, apathetic, unremorseful end of the spectrum. And they typically struggle or can struggle with substance abuse or criminality. That idea of self-medicating, right? We've seen studies on alcoholism or drug abuse because it's considered a coping mechanism. It's self-medicating to remain apathetic or to remain without feeling. And as you all know, those problems and those afflictions, right, when it comes to alcoholism or drug abuse, those problems are still there when you come down, and some people will go so far as to make sure that they never stop drinking or taking drugs so that they can continue to avoid that kind of confrontation of the unresolved issue, right? Considering that children typically learn their attachment styles from their parents, it's not really a surprise that these attachment styles are passed down from one generation to the next, which is where we enter that whole generational trauma thing that a lot of people are talking about now. And I think this is probably because my generation is a little bit more openly aware about whatever afflictions they have from their past or anything like that. I'm seeing it more and more, like people are just like, oh yeah, I am severely depressed and it's because of X, Y, and Z. There's that sense of self-awareness that it's kind of shocking to hear, right? Because, our parents' generation is very avoidant of these issues. Like, it's just like, don't talk about your crippling depression or anxiety. Nobody wants to hear about that. But then my generation's just like, hi, my name is Chuck, and I'm severely depressed, and it's because of this, and I'm working on it. Nice to meet you. And, I think it's a step in the right direction, because how can you fix a problem if you can't identify it, right? And, when it comes to the attachment style and how it's passed along generationally, it's not to say that you as a person are doomed to be stuck in this generationally cursed toxic cycle of attachment, of negative attachment styles. Many of us grow, like I said, to be self-aware of these toxic cycles and move towards a path of healing in our own individual ways. A lot of us are cultivating healthier ways to cope with these things and hopefully move towards a direction of fixing it. It's important to realize that you don't have to resign yourself to these negative attachment styles. Like, oh, okay, like I have this negative attachment styles, I'm just fucked forever. No. You're not fucked forever. It's possible to heal and develop beyond and into a healthy avenue of attachment styles, into that secure, autonomous attachment style. Therapy obviously is invaluable in these circumstances, but as you guys know, as my fellow broke bitches know, therapy isn't something that all of us have access to, nor is it entirely easy to access these. I have a friend who, she's just like, I'm trying to go to therapy, and Kaiser has like a 6-month waiting list. And I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ. So it's like she has health insurance, but she can't get into therapy for like 6 months. Just to even get she can't even get an assessment. She's like, I am struggling with depression and I would like to get an assessment to see what the fuck is going on. And they're just like, oh really? You're struggling with crippling depression? We have another appointment in 12 months. And she's just like, well, shit. So it's not something that's that easily accessible right now, especially if you don't have an endless source of income to go seek private therapy or private therapy options. Because I remember going to a private therapy practice, and that shit was not cheap. So through the avenue of education, you can explore and learn and understand your own attachment styles better and correct as you go. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be without a little bumps and you're not going to regress a little bit when you're trying to fix or course correct, but there's things that you can improve on, right? Little adjustments here and there when it comes to your nonverbal skills, meaning the way that you gesture, your facial expressions, your posture. There's a lot of nonverbal communication between people that sets off little transmitters in our brain, right? Like you can usually tell when somebody's uncomfortable or feeling upsetted based on their gesture or their gestures, their facial gestures, their body posture, the eye contact or lack thereof. So improving those nonverbal skills to, better communicate yourself. Boosting your emotional intelligence. So this is most people refer to this as EQ, emotional intelligence, which translates to your ability to manage your own emotions in a positive way, or to learn how to empathize with a partner or communicate more effectively. You learn to deal with conflict in healthier ways, right? So if the way that you typically deal with conflict is yelling or screaming or, doing anything like that, taking a step back and just realizing like, okay, you know what, partner A or B, I am very upset. I am sad. I feel very angry right now. Blah, right? And this is something that I'm personally learning, right? Because I come from a family, I'm Latin, and a lot of us talk super loud, which almost sounds like yelling, especially when we feel passionate about something. We're very, very passionate people, and I want to attribute that to culture because some of us just can't really, some of us are just like regulation of emotion aware, but, learning that there's healthier ways to communicate yourself when you're feeling upset. And I'm practicing this with my family. So instead of saying things out of hurt that would hurt my mom or dad, right, when I'm upset, I'm just like, listen, I need some time alone. I appreciate the fact that you're trying to give me advice on said matter, but I really need to be alone right now, and I will come to you when I'm ready. And I think the first time that I said that to my mom, she was a little bit like upset. She was like, what the fuck? And then she was just like, oh no, it's okay. And then when I finally came out of my little sad cocoon, she was just like, hey, so what do you want to have for lunch? So, learning how to communicate in healthier ways will help boost that emotional intelligence because you're able to communicate how you're feeling about certain things, right? And then trying to develop relationships with people who are securely attached. And this is what surprised me because, like I said earlier, I don't think I really met anybody with the secure attachment style apart from maybe my grandfather. And I fucking love that man. You know, apparently, again, don't quote me, but, you know, this is what I found in my research. Between 50 and 60% of people have a secure attachment style. So I think we can have a little bit of faith, you know, those of us that struggle with negative attachment styles, that, you know, we can find people that have secure attachment styles. It's important to realize too, and I have to add this in, that just because somebody has a secure attachment style doesn't mean they're fucking Jesus. Like, they're going to have points of, you know, upset where things are overwhelming and all that stuff. So, you know, but they cope with it in different ways. They process things in different ways than somebody with, let's say, a dismissive, avoidant attachment style, right? Or a preoccupied, anxious attachment style, right? And then, obviously, you can help correct as you go by resolving childhood traumas. And I've talked about this several times. As somebody who has more or less, you know, I want to say I've resolved my childhood trauma. There's a number of ways that we can resolve childhood trauma, you know, shadow work being one of them, being honest and open with the trauma that's afflicted you as a child. Therapy, obviously. When things like this go unresolved, it can cause a number of issues in our adult lives as we move on. And because I dealt with my childhood trauma as a child, so I dealt with it between the ages of 6 and I want to say 20, between that little time frame. You know, I was right before puberty, then into puberty, then out of puberty, and now I'm fucking moving into menopause in my 30s. JK, I'm just kidding. Don't kill me, anybody that is over 30. I'm just joking. But, you know, I went through the resolving stage of my childhood trauma. Does that mean that I'm completely free of any lingering trauma because I found a way to resolve? No. It's still, I can still see that it affects me in certain ways, right? In the ways that I form attachments, right? In the ways that I understand relationships, in the ways that I am, you know, hyper aware of unhealthy child to child relationships or child to adult relationships. So I am consistently looking at things in a different way than somebody who has not had the type of childhood trauma that I have. So if I see something that, you know, like between a child and adult that doesn't look quite right, you know, I am more likely to notice that quicker than somebody that hasn't. Like, I'm just like, that is not right. I'm going to intervene. Hello, child. Fuck off, adult. You know? So, you know, there's certain things that my childhood trauma going through it still affects me to this day. Is it something that I can talk about without it causing me any mental or emotional distress? Yes. It is something that I can educate on. It is something that I can move through. It's something that's not triggering if I see it in other, you know, I mean, does it affect me? Yes. Like, it's like, oh my God, I remember being in that position, but it's not going to get me to a point where I shut down or dissociate. You know, stress in and of itself, and I feel like I've talked about stress before, but I never actually went over what stress can actually do to our immune systems. Stress does a number on our immune systems, you know, kind of moving past that, right? You know, moving through the resolving of childhood trauma, developing, you know, your emotional intelligence, and then improving your nonverbal skills, you know, moving through this shadow work of understanding your attachment style and evolving yourself, right? That can cause a lot of stress. What does stress do to our bodies and our immune systems? Did you fucking know? I'm going to share this with you guys, that stress can actually reduce the number of natural killer cells in our body, the lymphocytes in our body. It can reduce that number of cells in our body, which is used to fight viruses, which would explain why when I get stressed, I usually get sick after. So when I'm going through a period of stress, and then when I finally come down, I usually get sick. I was stressed last week. Fucking holidays. We're not going to talk about it. Anyways, so, you know, I usually get sick after a stressful period because I internalize a lot. So when I'm stressed, I keep it all in, and then, you know, it like festers, and then I get sick after I come down and I have a chance to like face it and all that stuff. So that's bullshit. But you know what? Your body. Yay. Biology. But, you know, having a chance to look back at myself, right? And this is something that you can do. And, when you're doing like an overview of your life, looking back at myself and thinking about how I interact and how I want to deviate and improve and how I want to grow has given me very valuable insight that I want to share with you guys, obviously. This is why I consistently research and read up on and, add to my own personalized knowledge pool, because I do indeed want to improve on my relationships and be more present. And considering that a lot of us tend to dissociate when we feel fear or, a lot of stress or sadness, sometimes it comes out of nowhere. And, dissociation, statistically, can last between shorter periods of times, like hours or days, or much longer, like talking weeks, months, or even years. Dissociation, we have to understand, is a way for the mind to cope during very stressful periods in our lives. That the apathy, dissociation, and disconnection, these are all things that our mind create as a force of protection, because our minds are very, very fragile. It's important to realize that while those are great safe havens, they're only meant to be a temporary rest ground. Because when you bring yourself back and then you have to, face those unresolved issues, it's meant to give you a rest, right? It's not supposed to be a permanent fix. It's like a Band-Aid versus stitches, right? So once you stitch everything up and kind of give your body a chance to heal, that's when you start to feel that relief. That's when you begin to feel that relief and see it reflect on our lives externally, right? We've learned that negative attachment styles can lead to unhealthy relationships and a variety of other negative outcomes. But it's, like I said, it's important to remember that these patterns of attachment can be changed. Seeking therapy, practicing self-care, and building healthy relationships can help us learn to let go of those negative attachment styles and cultivate a lot more positive and fulfilling connections with others. So I don't want any of you guys with this information to lose hope. With effort, dedication, you can actually, break off from these negative attachment styles and create, the relationships that you want for yourself. You have that power to change your attachment styles and create better futures for yourself. Before I let you guys go, I want to let you guys know that there are a lot of free or low-cost mental health resources available here in the U.S. I'm going to list those for you. You can Google it. You can write it down. But we have the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI. NAMI is a national organization that provides support, education, and advocacy for people living with mental illness and their families. And they offer a variety of support groups and educational programs that are often free or low cost. The second one is Mental Health America. Mental Health America is a national organization that provides information, resources, and support for people living with mental illness. They have a network of affiliates across the country that offer a range of mental health services, including support groups and therapy. The third is community mental health centers. Many communities have mental health centers that offer low cost or sliding scale fee therapy for counseling services. These centers might also offer support groups and other resources. There's also online therapy. There's a lot of online therapy platforms that offer affordable counseling services, either through video or phone sessions. Some platforms offer a sliding scale fee based on your income. And then also, last but not least, and this is something that you can check on if you are a full-time employee or you're an employee at a big company, there are some companies that offer employee assistance programs, and these provide free or low-cost counseling services to employees and their families. I know my friend works at a company that offers this. These programs are often confidential and can be a good resource for people seeking mental health support. It's important to note, though, that availability and eligibility for these resources may vary depending on your location or individual circumstances. Before I let you guys go, I want to leave you with something positive to say to yourself. Remember that you are strong and capable. You have the power to overcome any challenge that comes your way. You are worthy of love, happiness, and a fulfilling life. I want you to choose to focus on the present moment and let go of the past. You are capable of finding healing and peace within yourself. Remember to be kind to yourself and seek support when you need it. It's always there. I'm always here when I'm not dying of the 200th cold that my niece has passed on to me and made me suffer with. I'm about ready to fight the child. How dare she get me sick for the 200th time in the span of 2 years. We'll fucking see. I love you guys. I hope to speak to you soon. Bye-bye now. Why should I deny this old dog?